In the gentle warmth of a Roman spring, in the year 121 of the Common Era, a child was born who would one day wear the purple cloak of empire and write words that would echo across 2,000 years. His name was Marcus Annius Verus, though history would come to know him as Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor. Let us step back now, slowly, softly, into the world of ancient Rome. A world of marble columns catching the golden afternoon light, of cypress trees swaying in Mediterranean breezes, of quiet courtyards where fountains whispered their endless songs. This is where our story begins, in the calm and orderly beauty of imperial Rome, where a young boy would learn what it means to think, to lead, and to live with wisdom. Close your eyes now and let yourself drift back through time, back to those sun-warmed streets, back to the beginning of a remarkable life. There is no hurry here. We have all the time we need to explore this story, to let it unfold at its own gentle pace. Marcus's family was distinguished, well connected to the heart of Roman power. His father died when Marcus was young, and so the boy was raised in the loving care of his grandfather and his mother, Domitia Lucilla, a woman of learning and grace. The household was one of quiet refinement, where books were treasured, where education was prized above all else, where the mind was seen as a garden to be carefully tended. Young Marcus was a serious child, thoughtful beyond his years, drawn to study and reflection rather than the rougher games of other boys. He would spend hours in the library, running his small fingers along the spines of scrolls, breathing in the scent of papyrus and ink, losing himself in the words of poets and philosophers. The afternoon light would slant through the windows, turning the dust motes into tiny stars, and Marcus would read and think and wonder about the nature of the world. Even then, there was something different about him, something that suggested depth, a quality of attention and seriousness that his teachers noticed and nurtured. The Emperor Hadrian himself took note of this exceptional boy and began to watch his development with interest. As Marcus grew, so too did his education, expanding like ripples on a still pond. The Emperor Hadrian ensured that the brightest minds in Rome became the boy's teachers. There were grammarians who taught him the music of language, rhetoricians who showed him the power of well-chosen words, geometers who revealed the hidden harmonies of shape and number. Each teacher added another layer to Marcus's understanding, another way of seeing the world. He learned Greek as fluently as Latin, opening doorways into the philosophies of Athens, the poems of Homer, the dialogies of Plato. But more than facts and figures, more than rhetoric and grammar, Marcus was learning something deeper. He was learning how to learn, how to think carefully and clearly, how to question and examine his own thoughts. This, perhaps, was the greatest gift his education gave him. When Marcus was 15 years old, something happened that would change his life forever. The Emperor Hadrian was aging, his health declining like the setting sun. He needed to secure the succession, to ensure that Rome would be guided by capable hands after his death. And so Hadrian made a careful choice. He adopted Antoninus, a man of sterling character and proven ability, on the condition that Antoninus, in turn, would adopt young Marcus. It was an adoption within an adoption, a careful arrangement to secure Rome's future across 2 generations. Marcus, barely into his teenage years, suddenly found himself heir to the greatest empire the world had ever known. Can you imagine how that must have felt? The weight of destiny settling onto such young shoulders? But if Marcus felt overwhelmed, he did not show it. Instead, he drew closer to his studies, devoted himself even more fully to learning and self-improvement. And he found in Antoninus Pius, for that was the name his adoptive father took when he became emperor, a model of everything a good man and a good ruler should be. Antoninus was patient, kind, just, and measured in all things. He ruled without cruelty, without vanity, without the hunger for glory that consumed so many emperors. He was, in the truest sense, a good man, and Marcus watched him carefully, learning from every decision, every word, every gesture. In later years, Marcus would write in his private meditations about Antoninus, listing his virtues with profound gratitude, his serenity, his reasonableness, his consideration for others, his lack of pretension. These years under Antoninus's guidance were Marcus's true education in how to be human, how to bear power without being corrupted by it, how to remain gentle while being strong. But there was another teacher, another influence, that would shape Marcus even more profoundly than Antoninus, though in a different way. His name was Junius Rusticus, and he was a philosopher, a practitioner of that school of thought called Stoicism. When Marcus was perhaps 25 years old, Rusticus gave him a gift that would change everything: a copy of the Discourses of Epictetus, a former slave who had become one of the greatest Stoic teachers. Picture Marcus now, a young man already marked for imperial destiny, opening this text for the first time. The words he found there spoke to something deep within him, answered questions he had been asking himself in the quiet hours of reflection. Epictetus taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. That virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation, is the only true good. That external things, wealth and fame, and even health, are neither good nor bad in themselves, but indifferent. What matters is our character, our choices, the state of our soul. These ideas took root in Marcus's mind like seeds in fertile soil. Here was a philosophy that matched the practical wisdom he had learned from Antoninus, but gave it a framework, a depth, a cosmic perspective. Stoicism taught that we are all part of a greater whole, all threads in the fabric of nature, all expressions of the rational principle, the logos, that orders the universe. To live well is to live in harmony with this nature, to accept what comes with equanimity, to do one's duty without complaint, to treat others with justice and compassion, because we are all fundamentally connected. Marcus began to study Stoicism with the same intensity he brought to everything else. He read not just Epictetus, but Zeno, Chrysippus, and other Stoic masters. He attended Rusticus's lectures, engaging in philosophical dialogue, testing ideas, asking questions, and slowly, gradually, Stoic philosophy became not just something Marcus studied, but something he lived. It became the lens through which he saw the world, the guide by which he made decisions, the source of comfort when times were difficult. In Rusticus himself, Marcus found more than a teacher. He found a living example of Stoic wisdom, someone who embodied the principles he taught. Rusticus was honest, unpretentious, patient, and devoted to truth. Marcus would later write that Rusticus taught him to avoid rhetoric for its own sake, to write simply and directly, to read carefully and not be satisfied with superficial understanding. These were lessons that went far beyond philosophy into the very art of living authentically. The years passed softly, like water flowing in one of Rome's great aqueducts, steady and constant. Marcus continued his education, both formal and philosophical. He served in various governmental positions, learning the practical arts of administration and justice. He married Faustina, the daughter of Antoninus Pius, and they began to build a family together. Through all of this, Antoninus Pius ruled Rome with wisdom and gentleness, providing the empire with 23 years of relative peace and prosperity. These were good years, stable years, and Marcus used them well, preparing himself, though perhaps he did not fully know it yet, for what was to come. He rose early each morning, often before dawn, to study philosophy and write his thoughts. He attended to his duties with diligence and care. He practiced the Stoic exercises that Rusticus had taught him, examining his impressions, questioning his judgments, reminding himself of the fundamental principles of ethics and physics. He learned to observe his own mind, to catch himself when anger or desire or fear arose, to step back and ask, is this in my control? Is this in accordance with nature? Is this worthy of a rational being? This practice of constant self-examination, this philosophical vigilance, became second nature to him. And always there was Antoninus as the model, showing him day by day what it looked like to wield absolute power with absolute integrity. Marcus watched how his adoptive father dealt with setbacks without distress, how he listened to criticism without defensiveness, how he treated even the lowliest citizen with respect and consideration. He saw that true strength was not in domination, but in self-mastery, not in imposing your will, but in aligning your will with reason and justice. These were lessons that could not be learned from books alone. They had to be witnessed, experienced, absorbed through years of observation and reflection. And then in the year 161, when Marcus was 40 years old, Antoninus Pius died peacefully, an old man who had lived well and ruled wisely. The throne of Rome passed to Marcus Aurelius, The purple imperial cloak, heavy with responsibility and symbolism, was placed upon his shoulders. The weight was immense, not the physical weight of the fabric, but the weight of empire, of millions of lives, of decisions that would shape the world. Marcus could have taken the throne alone, but in his first act as emperor, he did something unprecedented. He insisted that his adoptive brother Lucius Verus share the imperial power equally with him. This was Marcus's character. He valued partnership over supremacy, justice over ambition. And so began the reign of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher who became emperor, or perhaps the emperor who remained, above all else, a philosopher. As the purple cloak settled around him, Marcus felt the full magnitude of what lay ahead. He knew, from his years of study, from his philosophical training, from watching Antoninus, that the life of an emperor was not one of pleasure or ease. It was a life of service, of duty, of constant demands and difficult decisions. He knew that he would be tested, that circumstances would arise that would challenge every principle he held dear. And he knew that the only way to navigate what was coming was to hold fast to philosophy, to remember who he was and what truly mattered. Let us pause here for a moment, in this threshold space, as Marcus stands at the beginning of his reign. Outside the palace, Rome continues its eternal rhythm. The forums buzz with commerce and conversation, the baths steam and echo with laughter, the Tiber flows steadily toward the sea. The empire stretches from Britain to Egypt, from Spain to Syria, a vast web of provinces and peoples, armies and administrators, all looking now to this one man for guidance and leadership. But inside, in the quiet of his own mind, Marcus returns to the lessons of Epictetus, to the example of Antoninus, to the fundamental truths of Stoic philosophy. He reminds himself that his task is not to seek glory or avoid hardship, but simply to do his duty, moment by moment, as well as he can. To be just in his judgments, kind in his dealings, rational in his responses. To remember that all external things are fleeting and ultimately beyond his control, but that his own character, his own choices, remain always within his power. This is the man who now rules Rome, a reluctant emperor, a devoted student of wisdom, a human being trying with all his considerable intellect and will to live well in difficult circumstances. The years ahead would bring wars and plagues, betrayals and losses, challenges that would have broken lesser men. But Marcus would face them all with philosophy as his guide, writing his thoughts by candlelight in military camps, reminding himself again and again of what the Stoics taught, that the obstacle becomes the way, that acceptance brings peace, that we are all part of something greater than ourselves. But that story, the story of Marcus the Emperor, the warrior, the writer of meditations, that story awaits us in the chapters to come. For now, rest here in this moment of beginning as the purple cloak settles, as one chapter closes and another opens, as a philosopher prepares to rule the world. Rest now, and know that wisdom endures. The purple cloak settles upon his shoulders, and with it, the weight of an empire. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher and now emperor, steps into a world far different from the quiet libraries and gardens where he once studied. The year is 161, and Rome stretches vast and magnificent across the known world, from the misty shores of Britannia to the sun-baked deserts of Syria. But empire, Marcus will soon discover, is not simply glory and grandeur. It is responsibility. It is burden. It is the constant navigation of forces beyond any one person's control. The early years of his reign bring challenges that would test even the most hardened of rulers. First comes the Parthian War in the east, where Rome's legions must march to defend the empire's borders against ancient enemies. Marcus shares power with his adoptive brother Lucius Verus, sending him to command the eastern campaigns while Marcus himself manages the affairs of state in Rome. The partnership is unusual, two emperors ruling as one, but Marcus accepts this arrangement with the equanimity his Stoic training has prepared him for. He does not cling to power for its own sake. He does what duty requires. But war, as always, brings more than victory or defeat. It brings consequences unforeseen. When the legions return victorious from Parthia, they bring with them something invisible, something that cannot be defeated by sword or strategy. They bring plague. The Antonine Plague, as it will be known to history, sweeps across the empire like a dark wind. Villages empty, cities mourn. The streets of Rome itself fill with funeral processions, and the smoke from cremation pyres rises day and night into the Italian sky. Marcus walks through his palace and sees the effects everywhere. Servants fall ill, officials die. The machinery of empire strains under the weight of so much loss. And yet, even here, even amid this suffering, Marcus turns to his philosophy. He remembers the teachings of Epictetus, that great Stoic teacher whose words have been passed down to him. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Disease is not within his control. Death is not within his control. But his response, his character, his virtue, his commitment to duty, these remain his own. He rises each morning before dawn, as is his custom, and performs the mental exercises his teachers taught him. He reminds himself that he will encounter difficult people today, the angry, the envious, the ungrateful, but he will not be disturbed by them because he understands that they act out of ignorance, not malice. He reminds himself that all things are interconnected, that he is part of a greater whole, and that his purpose is to serve the common good. These reflections, simple and repeated, become his anchor in the storm. And then more trials. Along the northern frontier, Germanic tribes begin to push against Rome's borders. The Marcomanni, the Quadi, and others sense weakness in the plague-ravaged empire. They cross the Danube River, raiding and threatening the very security of Rome itself. For the first time in centuries, there is fear that barbarian armies might reach Italy, might threaten Rome itself. Marcus does not hesitate. Though he is a philosopher, though he loves books more than battlefields, though his nature inclines toward contemplation rather than conquest, he does what must be done. He gathers his legions. He prepares for war. And in the year 170, Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, travels north to the Danube frontier to personally command Rome's defense. He will spend much of the next decade there, far from the comforts of Rome, living in military camps along the cold rivers of the frontier. It is here in these harsh conditions that something extraordinary will take place. It is here that the meditations will be born. But for now, the journey itself awaits. The emperor travels north, toward war, toward hardship, toward the place where philosophy will meet the raw reality of human suffering. And as he travels, the landscape changes, from the warm hills of Italy to the darker forests of the frontier, from civilization to wilderness, from certainty to the unknown. The Danube frontier is a world away from Rome. Here, the river flows cold and gray, cutting through forests of oak and pine. Here, Roman fortifications stand as lonely outposts against the vast wilderness beyond. Wooden palisades, stone watchtowers, and the ordered rows of military tents mark the boundary between empire and the unconquered lands. Marcus Aurelius arrives not as a conquering hero, but as a servant to duty. His camp is simple, his tent modest. He does not surround himself with luxury, though as emperor he could command anything. Instead, he lives much as his soldiers do, sharing in the hardships of campaign life. The days are filled with the demands of war. There are councils with his generals, decisions about troop movements, negotiations with tribal leaders, the constant logistics of feeding and supplying an army in the field. Marcus listens carefully to his advisors, weighs options, makes decisions. He has learned that leadership is not about imposing one's will, but about finding the wise course and following it, regardless of personal preference. The Stoics teach that we are all actors in a play not of our own writing. We did not choose our role, but we must play it well. Marcus's role is emperor, and so he will be the best emperor he can be. But the wars are brutal and grinding. There are no quick victories, no glorious triumphs. Instead, there are cold winters in camp, skirmishes in the forests, the slow work of pacifying restless tribes and defending long borders. Men die, good men, brave men, fathers and sons. Marcus sees the cost of war firsthand. He visits the wounded, he walks among the funeral pyres, and each death reminds him of what he already knows from his studies. Life is fleeting, and death comes to all. As the evenings arrive and the camp settles into its routines, the sentries taking their posts, the fires burning low, the sounds of soldiers sharing quiet conversation, Marcus retreats to his tent. Here in the privacy of this simple space he lights a candle. The flickering flame casts dancing shadows on the canvas walls. Outside he can hear the river, the distant calls of night birds, the occasional challenge of guards. Inside, there is only the candle, a writing desk, and his thoughts. He begins to write. Not for publication, not for posterity, not for anyone but himself. These are private notes, personal reminders, philosophical exercises to keep his mind clear and his spirit steady. He writes in Greek, the language of philosophy, filling page after page with reflections and exhortations. He reminds himself not to waste time on things that don't matter. He reflects on the shortness of life and the vastness of eternity. He examines his own reactions and judgments, constantly working to align himself with reason and virtue. When you wake up in the morning, he writes to himself, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But this is not cynicism, it is preparation. He continues, they are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. This is the Stoic insight. We are all part of one human family. Even those who wrong us are our brothers and sisters in humanity. To hate them would be to hate part of ourselves. Night after night, Marcus writes by candlelight. The meditations take shape, though he does not call them that. They are simply his private journal, his philosophical diary, his way of processing the immense challenges of his life. He writes about endurance, about accepting what cannot be changed, about focusing on what is within his control. He writes about the impermanence of all things, how empires rise and fall, how fame fades, how even the memory of the greatest men eventually disappears like smoke. These reflections do not depress him. Instead, they bring peace. If all things pass away, then present troubles are bearable. If death comes to everyone, then there is no need to fear it. If the universe operates according to reason and natural law, then he can trust in that order and do his part within it. The candle burns lower. The camp outside grows quiet. Marcus continues to write, his hand moving steadily across the page, recording thoughts that will survive for millennia, though he does not know it. He is simply a man trying to live well, trying to remain virtuous in difficult circumstances, trying to remember what matters. In this moment, in this tent on the edge of empire, philosophy is not an abstract academic exercise. It is a practical tool for survival, a source of strength, a way of maintaining inner peace when the outer world offers only chaos. The seasons turn slowly on the frontier. Spring brings melting snows and swollen rivers. Summer brings campaigns in the heat of marching. Autumn brings the golden turning of leaves in the vast forests. Winter brings bitter cold and the huddling close to fires, the waiting for warmth to return. Through it all, Marcus remains. Years pass, not one or two, but nearly a decade of his life spent far from Rome, far from the family he loves, far from comfort and ease. He receives news from Rome, carried by messengers who make the long journey north. Some of the news is mundane, reports from the Senate, administrative matters, requests for decisions on laws and appointments, but some news cuts deep. His wife Faustina, his partner through so many years, becomes ill and dies. Marcus grieves, but even in grief, he returns to his philosophy. He reminds himself that death is natural, that all things that come into being must eventually pass away. He honors her memory but does not rage against fate. He accepts what he cannot change and continues with his duties. There is betrayal too. Avidius Cassius, one of his most trusted generals commanding legions in the east, hears a false rumor that Marcus has died. Seeing an opportunity, Cassius declares himself emperor and seizes control of several provinces. For a moment, Rome teeters on the edge of civil war, but Marcus does not respond with fury or immediate violence. Instead, he prepares to travel east and confront the rebellion, planning to reason with Cassius if possible, to understand what drove this betrayal. Before he can arrive, Cassius is assassinated by his own officers, and the rebellion collapses. Marcus refuses to take revenge on Cassius's family. He does not execute the man's children or confiscate all their property. Let this end here, he declares. Mercy, not vengeance. Stoic principle over political expedience. Each challenge, each hardship becomes another opportunity to practice philosophy. The Stoics taught that obstacles are opportunities, that what stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus lives this teaching. When faced with war, he practices courage and strategic thinking. When faced with loss, he practices acceptance and resilience. When faced with betrayal, he practices forgiveness and understanding. His meditations grow richer with each experience, each reflection deepening his wisdom. In his tent by candlelight, he continues to write. He reflects on the nature of the universe itself, on the logos, the rational principle that governs all things. He sees himself as a small part of an infinite whole, like a single wave in an endless ocean. This perspective brings comfort. His individual struggles, while real and demanding, are also temporary and small in the grand scheme of existence. The universe continues. The stars wheel overhead in their eternal patterns. The seasons turn, life flows like a river, and he is merely one drop of water in that great current. Everything is only for a day, he writes, both that which remembers and that which is remembered. The words are stark but not despairing. They are liberating. If everything passes, then there is no need to cling, no need to grasp at fame or fear obscurity, no need to be devastated by losses that, in the cosmic scale, are as fleeting as morning dew. The philosopher emperor sees his own life with clarity, important in this moment, for these people, for these duties, but ultimately as impermanent as everything else. He writes about anger, and how pointless it is to be angry at things that cannot be otherwise. You have power over your mind, not outside events, he reminds himself. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the core of Stoic practice, the dichotomy of control. Focus on what is yours, your thoughts, your intentions, your responses. Release everything else. Do not waste energy wishing the world were different. See it clearly as it is, and act with wisdom and virtue within that reality. The years on the frontier are harsh, but they forge something rare. A ruler who is also a genuine philosopher, not in theory but in practice. Marcus does not simply read about virtue, he attempts to embody it daily. He does not simply study ethics, he applies ethical reasoning to the concrete dilemmas of leadership. His meditations become a record of this extraordinary effort, a Roman emperor surrounded by war and plague and loss, striving to remain good, to remain rational, to remain human. As another evening settles over the camp, as the fires burn low and the stars emerge in the vast sky above, Marcus closes his journal. Tomorrow will bring more challenges, more decisions, more demands. But tonight, there is only this quiet moment. The scratch of pen on parchment has stopped, the candle flickers. Outside, the Danube flows on patient and eternal, carrying water from the mountains to the sea, indifferent to empires and emperors, a reminder of nature's grand indifference and perfect order. There is a rhythm to life in the military camps, a pattern that Marcus settles into over the long years. Dawn comes early, announced by the calls of sentries and the stirring of thousands of men preparing for another day. Marcus rises, as he always has, before the sun fully emerges. He takes time for his morning meditation, sitting quietly and preparing his mind for the day ahead. This is not meditation as some might picture it, not emptying the mind, but filling it with right thinking, with proper perspective, with the philosophical principles that will guide his actions. He thinks about impermanence. Everything that exists now existed before in different forms and will exist again in other forms. The elements that compose his body, his soldiers' bodies, the trees of the forest, the water of the river, all of these are temporary arrangements of matter, constantly flowing, constantly changing. We are all part of one great cycle of transformation. To understand this is to understand why clinging and grasping lead to suffering. We cannot hold on to anything permanently. We can only appreciate each moment as it passes and then let it go. After his meditation, Marcus tends to his duties. There are reports to review, officers to consult, decisions to make about supplies and strategies. He listens more than he speaks, a habit learned from his adoptive father Antoninus Pius, who showed him that wisdom often lies in patience and careful consideration. When he does speak, his words are measured and purposeful. He does not waste breath on complaints or expressions of frustration. What would be the point? The situation is what it is. His task is to respond wisely, not to wish it were different. The campaigns continue, season after season. There are victories, tribes pacified, treaties negotiated, borders secured. There are setbacks, unexpected attacks, harsh winters that take a toll, supply problems, illnesses that sweep through the camps. Through it all, Marcus maintains his equanimity. He has learned, deeply learned, that his peace cannot depend on external circumstances. If it did, he would never know peace, for external circumstances are always changing, always presenting new challenges. True peace must come from within, from the cultivation of virtue, from alignment with reason and nature. In the afternoons, when military business allows, Marcus sometimes walks along the river. The Danube has become a familiar companion, its moods as varied as any human's. Sometimes it runs swift and dark, swollen with rain. Sometimes it flows smooth and reflective, mirroring the sky. Sometimes in the depths of winter it freezes, and soldiers can walk across its surface. The river teaches the lesson that the Stoics have always taught. Everything flows, everything changes, nothing remains the same. Heraclitus said you cannot step into the same river twice. Marcus understands this in his bones now, not just as philosophy but as lived experience. He thinks about the men he commands, thousands of soldiers, each with their own lives, their own fears and hopes. They are far from home just as he is. They face death just as he does. In this, emperor and common soldier are equal. Death makes no distinctions of rank or status. The grave awaits the famous and the forgotten alike. This thought could be morbid, but Marcus finds it strangely comforting. It relieves the pressure of trying to be extraordinary. It reminds him that his task is not to achieve immortality or eternal fame, but simply to do his duty well, to be virtuous in his allotted time, and then to return to the elements from which he came. Evening approaches again, as it always does. The sun sinks toward the western horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. Shadows lengthen across the camp. The day's work is done, or as done as it will ever be. There is always more to do, but at some point, one must rest. Marcus returns to his tent. He eats a simple meal, no different from what his officers eat. Luxury has never been his concern. Enough food to sustain the body, enough shelter to protect from the elements, these are sufficient. And then once again the candle is lit, the writing materials are brought out. Marcus sits at his desk and opens his journal. The pages are filling up now, accumulating wisdom, accumulating reflections. He writes about gratitude tonight, all the things he has to be thankful for. His education, the good people who have shaped him, the opportunity to serve, even in difficult circumstances. The gift of philosophy itself, which has been his constant companion and guide. Even hardships, he realizes, are gifts of a sort. They provide opportunities to practice virtue. Without challenges, how could one develop courage? Without injustice, how could one practice forgiveness? Without loss, how could one learn acceptance? His pen moves across the page. Outside, the camp is settling into night. Fires burn, guards patrol, the river flows. And Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, writes his private thoughts, never imagining that these words will be read by millions, never imagining that these reflections from a military camp on the edge of empire will become one of the most treasured philosophical texts in human history. He writes only for himself, only to keep his mind clear and his spirit strong. But in doing so, he creates something timeless. In seeking to master himself, he leaves a gift for all of humanity. The years on the frontier blend together, not in confusion, but in a kind of purposeful repetition. Each day brings similar challenges, similar opportunities to practice philosophy, similar moments of choice between the reactive and the rational, between emotion and wisdom. Marcus has settled into this life, not with resignation, but with acceptance, a distinction crucial to the Stoic way. Resignation suggests defeat, a giving up. Acceptance suggests understanding, a clear-eyed recognition of reality coupled with the determination to respond virtuously. He has learned so much in these years away from Rome. Philosophy, which he once studied in libraries and gardens, has become his daily practice in the midst of war and leadership. The abstract principles have become concrete tools. When faced with frustration, he remembers that nothing external can truly harm him. Only his own judgments can do that. When faced with difficult people, he remembers that they act from their own understanding, limited though it may be, and that anger toward them is as pointless as being angry at a fig tree for producing figs. When faced with exhaustion, he remembers that he was born to work, that human beings are social creatures designed to contribute to the common good, and that his weariness is the price of meaningful service. The meditations have become more than a collection of thoughts. They are a spiritual practice, a way of training the mind to see clearly and respond wisely. Each evening's writing session is a kind of philosophical workout, strengthening his capacity for reason and virtue, just as physical exercise strengthens the body. He returns again and again to the same themes: impermanence, the shortness of life, the importance of living in the present moment, the distinction between what we control and what we don't, the interconnectedness of all things, the necessity of virtue. There is beauty in this repetition. The same truths, approached from different angles, considered in different contexts, gradually sink deeper into his understanding. This is how wisdom develops, not through one brilliant flash of insight, but through patient, repeated engagement with fundamental truths. Marcus knows that reading philosophy once is not enough. One must return to it daily, must rehearse it in the morning and reflect on it at night, must apply it in real situations again and again until virtuous response becomes second nature. He writes tonight about the view from above, one of his favorite contemplative exercises. He imagines rising above the military camp, above the Danube, higher and higher until all of the empire spreads out below him. From this height, the borders that men fight over become arbitrary lines. The cities become small clusters. The mighty river becomes a thin blue thread. Rising higher still, the earth itself becomes a small sphere in the vastness of space, one world among countless worlds, spinning through the eternal darkness. And on this small world, in one region, in one moment of time, millions of humans pursue their daily lives, working, fighting, loving, suffering, dying. From this cosmic perspective, Marcus sees his own concerns in proper proportion. Yes, his responsibilities are real. Yes, his decisions matter to those affected by them. But in the grand scope of infinity and eternity, everything is small, everything is temporary. This perspective does not diminish his commitment to duty, quite the opposite. Freed from the tyranny of thinking his problems are cosmically significant, he can focus on simply doing what is right in this moment, for these people, in this situation. He can let go of anxiety about legacy and reputation, let go of the pressure to be more than human, and simply be a good man doing his best. The candle is burning very low now. The wax has pooled at the base, and the flame grows smaller. Soon it will gutter out, and Marcus will sleep, as he has slept through so many nights in this tent, in this camp, on this frontier. Tomorrow will come, as it always does, with new challenges and new opportunities to practice what he believes. He will rise before dawn. He will meditate. He will serve. He will face whatever the day brings with courage and equanimity. And tomorrow night, if he lives to see it, he will light another candle and write again. This is the life he has been given, not the life he might have chosen. He would have preferred a quiet life of study and contemplation, he often admits to himself. But this is the role fate has assigned him, and he will play it well. He will be the philosopher emperor. He will govern justly. He will face hardship without complaint. He will seek wisdom amid war. He will write his meditations not for fame, but for clarity. He will do all of this because it is what virtue requires, what duty demands, what his nature as a rational being calls him to do. The candle flickers one final time and goes dark. The tent is filled with gentle darkness. Outside, the stars shine with their ancient light. The river flows on toward the sea. The world turns. And Marcus Aurelius, having completed another day of living philosophically, closes his eyes. Tomorrow the practice continues. But tonight there is rest. Tonight there is peace. Tonight there is only the quiet satisfaction of a day lived in accordance with nature and reason. Rest now, as the emperor rests. Let go, as the philosopher teaches. All things pass, all things flow, all things return to the source from which they came. Rest, and know that wisdom is found not in escaping life's hardships, but in meeting them with virtue. Rest now, rest. And so we continue our journey with Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, as he sits in quiet contemplation beneath the vast expanse of the night sky. The hardships of rule have taught him many things, but perhaps none more profound than this, that all things pass away like water flowing endlessly through rivers, returning always to the sea. In the stillness of evening, Marcus writes by the warm glow of oil lamps, his hand moving slowly across parchment, recording thoughts not for glory or posterity, but for his own soul, his own peace. These are his meditations on mortality, on the fleeting nature of all that we are and all that we know. And in these reflections there is a strange comfort, a gentle acceptance that soothes the worried mind. Let us listen now to his words, to his wisdom, as if they were written for us, here, in this very moment. Marcus reminds himself and reminds us that death is not something to fear, but something to understand, something natural, woven into the very fabric of existence. He writes, "Think of the whole of time, and consider how brief your portion. Think of the vastness of eternity, and see how small this moment." All around him the Roman camp sleeps. Guards pace slowly along wooden ramparts. Somewhere a horse shifts in its stable. The Danube River flows dark and endless beyond the fortress walls, just as it has flowed for countless ages. Just as it will flow long after Marcus, after Rome itself has returned to dust. This thought does not trouble him. Instead, it brings a deep and abiding calm. For if all things pass, then so too do our worries, our fears, our fleeting pains. Everything flows, everything changes, everything returns. Marcus sets down his stylus and gazes into the flame before him, watching how it dances and flickers, how it consumes the oil drop by drop, how its light cannot last forever, and yet, in this moment, it illuminates the darkness. This is the nature of life itself. We burn brightly for a time, we cast our small light into the world, and then we are gone, making way for others, for new flames, new moments, new lives, and this is good. This is as it should be. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, creates and destroys, brings forth and takes away, in an endless cycle that has no beginning and no end. To resist this cycle is to suffer. To accept it is to find peace. Marcus closes his eyes and breathes slowly, feeling the cool night air fill his lungs, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong in his chest. How many breaths remain to him, he does not know. No one knows, but he does not need to know. Each breath is enough, each moment is complete. He writes again, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Not as a morbid thought, but as a liberating one. If this were your last hour, would you spend it in anger, in resentment, in fear, or would you spend it in virtue, in kindness, in peace? Marcus chooses peace. He chooses acceptance. He chooses to see himself as part of something far greater than any single life, any single empire. He is a wave in the ocean, a note in an eternal song, a spark from an endless fire. And when his time comes to return to the source, he will go willingly, gratefully, knowing that he has played his part. The night deepens around him. Stars wheel slowly overhead, ancient and indifferent, yet somehow comforting in their constancy. They too will fade, given enough time. Even stars die. Even the cosmos itself is subject to change. Nothing is permanent, nothing lasts. And yet, in this very impermanence, there is beauty, there is meaning, there is peace. Marcus returns to this theme again and again in his writings, circling back to it as one returns to a familiar path through a beloved garden. All things pass away. All things flow like rivers. This is not a teaching to be understood once and forgotten, but a truth to be felt deeply, to be absorbed into the very core of one's being through gentle repetition, through patient contemplation. He writes, and we listen. Time is a river, a violent current of events. One thing no sooner comes into sight than it is swept by, and another takes its place, and that too will be swept away. Picture this river, flowing endlessly through the landscape of existence. Everything that has ever been, everything that is, everything that will be, all of it flows through this river of time. Empires rise from its waters like great stones, proud and solid, and then they are worn smooth, worn down, worn away, until they sink back into the current and are forgotten. People are born, live their brief lives, and die, their names perhaps remembered for a generation, perhaps two, and then lost forever in the vastness of the flow. Even the gods, Marcus muses, even the stories we tell ourselves about eternity, these too are carried along, changing form, taking new shapes, eventually dissolving. And so Marcus asks himself, what then should I cling to? What can I hold that will not be swept away? The answer comes quietly, gently, like a whisper from the depths of his own soul. Cling to nothing, hold nothing, let everything flow as it must. Instead, be like the river itself, always moving, always changing, always at peace with what is. The Stoics teach that we suffer not because things change, but because we resist that change. We grasp at what is slipping away. We mourn what is already gone. We fear what has not yet arrived. But Marcus, sitting in his tent, writing by lamplight, practices a different way. He practices acceptance. He practices letting go. He looks at his own life and sees it clearly. A brief span of years, a small ripple in an infinite current. He has been emperor, yes. He has commanded legions, governed provinces, made decisions that affected millions. And yet, he knows, deeply and truly, that all of this will pass. His name will be spoken for a time, then less frequently, then perhaps not at all. The buildings he has ordered built will crumble. The laws he has written will be forgotten or changed. Even the empire itself, mighty Rome, will one day fall. And this knowledge, rather than filling him with despair, fills him with peace. For if nothing lasts, then no mistake is final. If all things pass, then so too does suffering. The pain you feel today will be gone tomorrow. The insult that stings your pride will be forgotten. The loss that breaks your heart will soften with time. Everything flows, everything passes, everything returns to the source. Marcus writes, "All things are woven together, and the bond is sacred. Scarcely a single thing is unconnected with another. All things have been coordinated to make one world." We are not separate from the river. We are the river. We are not apart from the flow. We are the flow itself. To accept this is to find freedom. The emperor leans back in his chair, feeling the weariness in his bones, the weight of his years. He is not a young man anymore. Death is no longer a distant abstraction, but a companion that walks beside him, patient and quiet. And he does not fear this companion. He has spent too many hours in meditation, too many nights in contemplation, to fear what is natural, what is inevitable, what is simply the next stage in the endless transformation of all things. He will die, yes. But the matter that forms his body will not be destroyed. It will merely take new forms. The atoms that make up his flesh will become part of the earth, part of plants, part of other creatures. The breath he exhales will mingle with the air, will be breathed by others, will travel across continents and centuries. Nothing is lost. Everything is transformed. Everything continues. This is the teaching. This is the meditation. All things pass, and in their passing they are reborn. All things flow, and in their flowing they remain. All things die, and in their dying they live on in new forms. Rest in this knowledge. Let it soothe you as it soothed Marcus. Let it calm your worried mind. For you too are part of this great river, this endless flow, this sacred cycle of birth and death and birth again. In the quiet hours of night, when the mind naturally turns toward deeper questions, Marcus contemplates the brevity of human life. Not with sadness, but with clarity. He writes, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." Each day, he suggests, should be lived as if it were complete in itself, as if no other day were guaranteed. This is not meant to create anxiety, but rather to sharpen our attention, to help us see what truly matters. When we understand that our time is limited, that we are here for only the briefest moment in the vastness of eternity, we begin to let go of petty concerns. The slight from a colleague, the disappointment of an unfulfilled ambition, the accumulation of wealth or fame, all of these shrink to their proper size when held against the backdrop of infinity. Marcus looks up from his writing and gazes out into the darkness beyond his tent. How many humans have lived and died already? Billions upon billions, each one convinced of their own importance, each one caught up in the dramas of their day, and now all of them gone, their names forgotten, their worries dissolved. And how many more will come after him? Countless generations, stretching forward into a future he cannot imagine, each one repeating the same patterns, learning the same lessons, until they too pass away. We are like waves on the ocean, Marcus thinks. Each wave rises, takes its shape, crashes upon the shore, and is absorbed back into the sea. And then another wave rises, and another, in endless succession. No single wave is the ocean. And yet each wave is made entirely of the ocean. We are separate, and we are one. We are individual, and we are universal. We are temporary, and we are eternal. This paradox lies at the heart of Stoic teaching, and Marcus turns it over in his mind again and again, examining it from every angle, letting it sink deeper and deeper into his understanding. He writes, "All things fade into the storied past, and in a little while are shrouded in oblivion. The great heroes of old, the legendary emperors, the poets and philosophers, whose names were once on every tongue, where are they now? They are stories, fading stories, memories of memories, growing dimmer with each passing generation. Even Homer, even Socrates, even Alexander, their true selves are lost to time. We have only fragments, echoes, shadows of who they really were. And Marcus knows the same will be true of him. Historians may record his campaigns, his policies, his reign, but the man himself, his private thoughts, his fears and hopes, his quiet moments of doubt and determination, these will be lost. And he is at peace with this. He does not write his meditations for fame. He writes them for clarity, for practice, for the discipline of his own mind and soul. He writes them to remind himself again and again of what matters: virtue, reason, acceptance, peace. The night grows colder. Marcus wraps his cloak more tightly around his shoulders. He is emperor of Rome, and yet here, in this moment, he is simply a man, aging and mortal, seeking wisdom in the face of impermanence. He thinks of all the people throughout the empire, all the lives being lived in this very moment. Merchants closing their shops, mothers tucking children into bed, farmers sleeping in their fields, soldiers standing watch, sailors navigating by stars. All of them alive, all of them conscious, all of them convinced of the reality and importance of their own existence. And all of them, every single one, will die. Their bodies will return to the earth, their thoughts will cease, their personal worlds will end. And yet the universe will continue, indifferent and eternal, creating new forms, new lives, new moments of consciousness that will also believe themselves to be permanent, to be special, to be different from all that came before. This is not cause for sadness. It is simply the way of things. Marcus writes, "Do not fear death, but welcome it, since it too comes from nature. For as we are young and grow old and flourish and reach our prime and develop gray hairs and wrinkles, and in the case of males, beget children and bring them up and watch them marry, so too is death one of the acts of life." Death is not an aberration. It is not a tragedy. It is simply the final stage of a natural process, as natural as birth, as growth, as the changing of seasons. To fear death is to fear nature itself. And Marcus does not fear nature. He seeks, instead, to live in harmony with it, to align himself with the great cosmic pattern, to accept what is given and what is taken away with equal grace. The lamp flickers beside him, its oil running low. Soon it will go out, and darkness will fill the tent. But for now it gives its light, faithful and steady. And that, Marcus thinks, is all that any of us can do. Give our light while we have it, serve our purpose while we can, and then when the time comes, go out peacefully, knowing we have done what we were meant to do. There is a rhythm to these meditations, a gentle repetition that mirrors the cycles of nature itself. Day follows night, follows day, follows night. The seasons turn, one into another forever. The tides rise and fall, pulled by the moon's eternal dance. And so too does Marcus return, again and again, to the same essential truths, not because he has forgotten them, but because remembering requires practice, requires patience, requires the discipline of constant return. We must remind ourselves, he suggests, of what we already know, but so easily forget in the rush and noise of daily life. We are mortal. Our time is brief. What we have only temporarily. What we love will be taken from us, or we from it. This is not pessimism, this is clarity, and from this clarity comes freedom. For when we truly accept that we cannot hold on to anything, we stop clutching. When we truly accept that everything ends, we begin to appreciate what is here now, in this moment. Marcus writes, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are, and to make new things like them." The universe is not static, it is dynamic, creative, endlessly transforming. Every ending is a beginning, every death is a birth. The leaf that falls from the tree becomes soil that nourishes new growth. The body that ceases to breathe returns its elements to the earth, to the air, to the water, where they will become part of new life, new forms, new expressions of the same eternal substance. Nothing is lost. Everything is transformed. This is the great teaching, the great comfort. You fear that when you die, you will cease to exist. But Marcus would ask you, did you exist before you were born? And if that non-existence caused you no distress, why should the non-existence after death trouble you? You are not something separate from the universe, temporarily visiting it before being expelled into oblivion. You are the universe itself, temporarily taking this particular form, this particular shape, before flowing into new forms, new shapes. The wave does not die when it reaches the shore. It returns to the ocean from which it came, and the ocean sends forth new waves, endlessly, eternally. Marcus sets down his stylus and flexes his fingers, stiff from writing. He is tired. The campaigns along the Danube have taken their toll. His body aches. His health is not what it was. He can feel time pressing on him, the slow but steady approach of his own end. And he meets this feeling not with fear, but with philosophical curiosity. What will it be like, he wonders, to return to the elements, to dissolve back into the cosmos? Will there be consciousness? Will there be awareness? The Stoics debate such questions, but Marcus finds he does not need to know the answer. Either there will be consciousness, in which case death is simply a transition to a new state, or there will not, in which case it will be like a dreamless sleep. And what is frightening about sleep? Nothing. We welcome sleep. We surrender to it gladly each night, letting go of the day, letting go of our worries, trusting that rest will restore us. Death, perhaps, is the ultimate rest, the final letting go, the complete surrender. And if Marcus has practiced anything in his life, it is the art of letting go. Letting go of anger when others wrong him, letting go of desire when things do not go his way, letting go of pride when he makes mistakes, letting go of attachment to outcomes he cannot control. And now, as his life moves toward its conclusion, he practices letting go of life itself. Not with bitterness or regret, but with acceptance and even gratitude. He has lived, he has experienced the world, he has loved and been loved, he has thought deeply about what it means to be human, he has tried, to the best of his ability, to live according to reason and virtue. What more could he ask? What more could anyone ask? He writes, "Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see. This moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this is all we ever really have. The past is gone, dissolved into memory and story. The future has not yet arrived and may never arrive, but now is real, now is solid, now is where we live, where we love, where we practice virtue, where we find peace." And so Marcus brings his attention back, again and again, to the present moment, to the feel of the stylus in his hand, to the warmth of the lamp beside him, to the sound of distant voices from the camp, to the cool air on his face, to the simple fact of being alive, here, now. This is enough. This has always been enough. We seek happiness in the future, in achievements and acquisitions, in the approval of others and the fulfillment of our plans. But Marcus reminds us that happiness is available now, in this moment, if we will only stop resisting what is, stop demanding that reality be different from what it is, and instead accept, embrace, and find peace in the eternal present. And so, as the night deepens and the oil lamp burns lower, Marcus Aurelius completes another session of his meditations on mortality and time. His writings are not meant to be read by others, and yet across the centuries they reach us here tonight, offering the same comfort they offered him. All things pass, all things flow, all things return to the source from which they came. These words, repeated softly, become a kind of prayer, a mantra, a gentle rhythm that soothes the restless mind. Let us rest with them now, as Marcus rests with them. Let us feel their truth in our own bodies, in our own breath, in our own awareness of this fleeting, precious moment. You are alive now, you are conscious now, you are here now. And that is a miracle, a gift, a brief flowering of the universe's infinite creativity. You did not ask to be born, and you cannot choose when to die. But in between these two mysteries, you have this moment, and this moment, and this moment, each one complete, each one enough. Marcus writes one final thought before extinguishing his lamp. Think of the life you have lived until now as over, and as a dead man, see what's left as a bonus, and live it according to nature. Every moment from this point forward is a gift. You have already died countless times. Each time you fell asleep, each time a version of yourself ended and a new one began, each time you let go of who you were and became who you are. And you will die countless more times before your final death. But right now, in this moment, you are alive, and that is enough. Marcus extinguishes the lamp. Darkness fills the tent, but it is not a frightening darkness. It is the darkness of rest, of peace, of letting go. Outside, the stars continue their slow wheel across the heavens, just as they have for billions of years, just as they will for billions more. The river continues to flow, the earth continues to turn, and Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, lies down to sleep, accepting whatever tomorrow brings, accepting that there may not be a tomorrow, accepting that all things eventually pass away. And in that acceptance, he finds perfect peace. Let us find that peace now, too. Let your body relax, let your mind grow quiet, let your breath slow and deepen. You are part of the great river of time, flowing endlessly toward the sea. You are part of the eternal transformation of all things. You are exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be here. Nothing needs to be different, nothing needs to change. In this moment, all is well. All is as it should be. Marcus understood this. He lived with this truth daily, hourly, moment by moment. And through his words, written so long ago by lamplight in a tent on the frontier of an ancient empire, he offers this understanding to us. Death is not the enemy. Impermanence is not a curse. They are simply the nature of reality, the way things are, the pattern woven into the fabric of existence itself. To accept this is to be free. To embrace this is to find peace. And so we let go now, as Marcus let go. We release our grip on permanence, on certainty, on the illusion that anything can last forever. We open our hands and let the river of time flow through our fingers, grateful for the brief moment when the water touches our skin, and then letting it flow on to the sea, to the source, to the great mystery from which all things emerge and to which all things return. Rest now. Rest deeply. Rest in the knowledge that you are part of something vast and eternal, that your brief life is a sacred note in an infinite symphony, that you matter precisely because you do not last forever, precisely because you are unique and unrepeatable and beautifully, wonderfully temporary. Marcus Aurelius sleeps, the camp sleeps, the empire sleeps, and we too now sleep, carried on the gentle current of time, flowing peacefully toward whatever comes next, trusting in the wisdom of the universe, accepting the gift of this moment and the inevitable letting go of the next. All things pass. All things flow. All things return. Rest now, rest. And so we drift forward, carried on that eternal river, into the fourth watch of the night with Marcus Aurelius, into the heart of his philosophy, where virtue dwells like a steady flame. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the camp along the Danube sleeps and only the sentries remain watchful, Marcus sits with his private writings and contemplates what it means to live well. Not to live pleasantly, not to live successfully by the standards of ambitious men, but to live well, virtuously, in accordance with nature and reason. This is the cornerstone of everything he believes. This is the foundation upon which a meaningful life is built. Virtue, he reminds himself in the flickering lamplight, is the only true good. Everything else, wealth, reputation, comfort, even health, these are neither good nor bad in themselves. They are indifferent, he writes. Preferred, perhaps, but ultimately indifferent. What matters, what has always mattered, is the quality of one's character, the choices one makes, the intentions that guide one's actions. A virtuous life, Marcus reflects, is a life aligned with our rational nature, with the logos that governs all things. We are reasoning beings, he writes, and our purpose is to use that reason well, to act justly, courageously, moderately, and wisely. These are the four cardinal virtues of Stoic philosophy, and they shine through his meditations like guiding stars. Justice, treating others fairly, recognizing our common humanity. Courage, facing difficulties without complaint, enduring what must be endured. Moderation, neither excess nor deficiency, but the balanced path. And wisdom, seeing things clearly as they truly are, without delusion or desire distorting our vision. Marcus returns to these principles again and again, not because he has mastered them, but because he must constantly remind himself. Because even an emperor, perhaps especially an emperor, faces temptations to stray from virtue's narrow path. And so in the deep quiet of this night, we join him in contemplating what virtue truly means. We feel the weight of his commitment, the gentleness of his self-correction, the way he speaks to himself with both firmness and compassion, like a patient teacher guiding a willing student. The lamp burns low, the river flows on, and virtue remains, constant, reliable, the one treasure that cannot be taken away. Marcus writes to himself about duty, about the work that has been given to him, not by choice, but by fate, by the unfolding of circumstances beyond his control. He did not seek the throne. He would perhaps have preferred a life of study and contemplation, surrounded by books and teachers, exploring philosophy in peaceful gardens. But that was not his path. His path was the purple cloak, the weight of empire, the endless demands of governance and war. And so he asks himself, as we might ask ourselves, how do we meet the duties that life presents to us? How do we respond when called to tasks we did not choose? Marcus's answer is clear and gentle. We do what is required of us without complaint, without resentment, without wishing things were otherwise. This is not passive resignation, but active acceptance. It is recognizing that we have a role to play in the great interconnected web of existence, and that our role, whatever it may be, matters. Every person has their function, Marcus writes. A vine does not expect to bear the fruit of an olive tree. A horse does not lament that it cannot fly like a bird. Each thing fulfills its nature, and in doing so, contributes to the harmony of the whole. For human beings, our nature is to be social creatures, rational beings who live in communities and care for one another. Our duty, then, is to contribute to the common good, to do our work, whatever that work may be, with diligence and goodwill. The emperor who rules justly and the farmer who tends his fields honestly, both are fulfilling their duty. Both are living in accordance with nature. Marcus reminds himself not to complain about early mornings, difficult people, or exhausting responsibilities. When you wake at dawn, he writes, say to yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. Shall I complain about doing what I was born to do? This is my duty. This is my purpose. There is something deeply soothing in this perspective. Something that releases us from the constant struggle against reality. When we accept our duties without complaint, when we meet our responsibilities with willing hearts, we find a kind of peace, a harmony between our inner state and the outer world. Marcus performs his duties, hearing petitions, making judgments, planning campaigns, writing letters, and he does so not for glory or reward, but because it is what virtue requires. He performs each task as if it were sacred, as if the gods themselves were watching, because perhaps they are, or perhaps what watches is the rational principle within himself, the divine spark of logos that connects him to all things. And so the night deepens and we contemplate duty, not as burden but as participation, not as constraint but as purpose, the work we were born to do, whatever that work may be, living in accordance with nature. This phrase appears throughout Marcus's writings like a gentle refrain, and now, in this quiet hour, we pause to consider what it truly means. For the Stoics, nature physis means not just the trees and rivers and stars, though it includes these, but the fundamental rational order of the universe. To live in accordance with nature is to live in harmony with the logos, the divine reason that organizes all things. It is to accept what happens as part of the natural unfolding of events, recognizing that we are not separate from nature but woven into it, expressions of it, momentary forms taken by the same universal substance. Marcus reminds himself that everything that happens in accordance with nature. The changing seasons, the patterns of growth and decay, the movements of celestial bodies, these all follow natural law. And so too do human affairs, even the difficult ones, even suffering and death. Nothing that occurs is unnatural, he writes. Nothing is contrary to the way things fundamentally are. When we resist what happens, when we demand that reality be different than it is, we place ourselves in opposition to nature and we suffer. But when we accept what comes, when we work with circumstances rather than against them, we find ourselves flowing with nature rather than struggling against its current. This acceptance does not mean we become passive or indifferent to outcomes. Marcus works tirelessly to defend Rome, to govern justly, to help where he can. But he does not attach his peace of mind to results beyond his control. He focuses on what is up to him, his intentions, his efforts, his character, and releases what is not. The outcome of battles, the loyalty of subordinates, the opinions of others, these are external, and externals cannot harm the soul unless we allow them to. Living in accordance with nature also means recognizing our place in the larger whole. We are like cells in a great body, Marcus writes, or citizens in a cosmic city. What benefits the whole benefits us. What harms the whole harms us. There is no true separation. The well-being of the community is our well-being. This perspective dissolves the illusion of isolated self-interest. When we understand that we are part of nature, not apart from it, we naturally begin to care for the whole as we care for ourselves. We act with kindness and consideration, not because external rules demand it, but because we recognize our fundamental interconnection. And so Marcus sits in his tent or walks along the riverbank in the darkness, contemplating this deep harmony, this alignment with nature, this sense of being at home in the universe, despite all its apparent chaos and suffering. There is an order, he believes. There is a pattern, and we are part of it, expressions of it, returning to it. To live in accordance with nature is to live peacefully, knowingly, gratefully, to say yes to existence, to trust the unfolding, to rest in the wisdom of the whole. In the deeper hours of night now, Marcus turns his attention to anger, to resentment, to the turbulent emotions that disturb the soul's tranquility. As emperor, he encounters frustration daily, incompetent officials, rebellious subjects, allies who prove unreliable, enemies who seem motivated by pure malice. How easy it would be to give in to anger, to lash out, to punish harshly. But Marcus has learned, through years of philosophical practice, that anger harms the one who holds it far more than its intended target. Anger, he writes, is a kind of madness, a temporary loss of reason. When we grow angry, we act against our own nature as rational beings. We hand control of our inner state to external circumstances, to other people's actions. We become slaves to our reactions. And what good does it do? Does anger solve the problem? Does it improve the situation? Or does it merely add more disturbance, more suffering, to what already exists? Marcus reminds himself to pause before reacting, to take a breath, to remember that the person who has wronged him likely acted from ignorance or their own distorted values. They do wrong because they don't know better, he writes. They mistake what is truly good. Shall we be angry with them for being confused? When someone wrongs you, ask yourself, what did they believe was good that led them to this action? Perhaps they thought pleasure was good, or reputation or revenge. They're mistaken, of course, but they're doing what they think is right. This perspective shifts everything. It transforms anger into compassion, judgment into understanding. This doesn't mean accepting wrongdoing without response. Marcus still administers justice, still corrects what can be corrected, still protects the empire from threats, but he does so without the burning poison of anger in his heart. He acts from reason, from duty, from virtue, not from wounded pride or the desire for retaliation. And when anger does arise, as it inevitably does, he has practices for letting it go. He reminds himself of the shortness of life, how soon both he and the person who angered him will be dead and forgotten. He reflects on the interconnectedness of all people, how we're all branches of the same tree, limbs of the same body. To harm another is to harm oneself. He considers the possibility that he himself is wrong, that he's missing some piece of information that would make the other person's actions understandable. Forgiveness flows naturally from this understanding. Not a forced, resentful forgiveness, but a genuine release, a letting go, an acceptance that we are all flawed beings doing the best we can with the understanding we have. Marcus forgives not because he is weak, but because he is strong. Strong enough to remain rational when emotion threatens. Strong enough to maintain his inner freedom regardless of what others do. The night holds this teaching gently, the possibility of responding to difficulty without anger, of meeting frustration with calm understanding, of forgiving because we see clearly, because we comprehend the larger picture, because we value our own peace more than the satisfaction of blame. And finally, as this fourth watch draws toward its close, we rest in the teaching that Marcus returns to again and again, the profound interconnectedness of all humanity, of all existence. We are not isolated individuals struggling alone in an indifferent universe. We are members of a great community, woven together by invisible threads of relationship and mutual dependence. Marcus writes, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To work against one another is contrary to nature." And yet how often we do exactly that, treating others as obstacles rather than fellow travelers, forgetting that we share the same fundamental nature, the same capacity for reason, the same divine spark. When you wake in the morning, Marcus reminds himself, remember that you are waking to the company of other human beings, to your fellow rational creatures. This is your natural condition, to live with others, to work together, to contribute to the common good. Whatever annoys you about others, Marcus writes, turn inward and examine whether you possess the same flaw. You'll find that you do. And recognizing this creates humility, compassion, patience. We are all struggling with the human condition together. We all make mistakes. We all fall short of perfect virtue. And therefore we must bear with one another gently, helping where we can, forgiving always, remembering our fundamental kinship. This interconnectedness extends beyond humanity to all of nature, to the entire cosmos. We are not separate from the universe but expressions of it, temporary forms taken by the same universal substance that becomes stars and rivers and mountains. What seems to die merely changes form, returning to the great reservoir of being from which it emerged. We come from the cosmos and we return to it. We are the universe knowing itself, experiencing itself, contemplating itself through countless temporary eyes. And so Marcus teaches us to expand our sense of identity, to feel ourselves as part of something vast and beautiful, to recognize that in serving others we serve ourselves, and in harming others we harm ourselves, because at the deepest level there is only one life, one being, expressing itself in infinite forms. The teaching settles over us now like a warm blanket, like gentle hands, this sense of belonging, of being held within a greater whole, of never truly being alone. We are connected, always connected to each other, to nature, to the rational principle that flows through all things. And in this connection, there is comfort. In this belonging, there is peace. Marcus's words become like a lullaby now. We are waves in the same ocean, threads in the same fabric, notes in the same eternal song. What happens to one affects all. What benefits the whole benefits each part. We rise together or not at all. And as the fourth watch ends and the pre-dawn darkness holds the world in gentle suspension, we rest in this teaching, this interconnection, this vast web of being that holds us all. We are not alone. We have never been alone. We are part of everything, and everything is part of us. Rest now in this knowing, in this belonging, in this great cosmic embrace that has always held you and always will. Rest, connected, home. And so we rest, connected, whole, home. The years have passed like water flowing through gentle hands. Marcus Aurelius, now in his 58th year, feels the weight of time in his bones, in the quiet ache that comes with dawn, in the way his breath grows shorter on cold mornings along the frontier. The plague has taken so many, the wars have asked so much, and yet here he sits, still at his desk, still with his journal, still seeking wisdom in the fading light of another day. He is tired now, so very tired. But it is a good tiredness, the kind that comes from a life fully lived, from duty faithfully performed, from love genuinely given. He looks at the pages before him, the words he has written to himself across so many years, and he sees not the thoughts of an emperor, but the gentle reminders of a soul trying to understand, trying to accept, trying to be at peace. What does it mean to have lived well? This question circles through his mind like a bird returning home at dusk. To have lived well, to have done one's duty without bitterness, to have faced hardship with courage and loss with grace, to have loved despite knowing that all things pass. Yes, these things matter. These things have always mattered. The stars outside his window are the same stars that shone on his childhood, the same stars that will shine on generations yet unborn. He is a part of that continuity, that great river of existence flowing from past to future, and in this understanding there is comfort, there is peace. He writes slowly now, his hand moving with deliberate care across the parchment. Death hangs over thee, he writes. While thou still livest, while thou mayest, be good. Be good. Such simple words, such profound wisdom. To be good, not for reward, not for recognition, but simply because goodness is its own reason, its own completion. He has tried. Through all the complexity and compromise of empire, through all the moral ambiguity of war and governance, he has tried to be good, to be just, to be kind when kindness was possible, to be firm when firmness was necessary, to treat each person as a fellow traveler in this brief journey through existence. And now, As the journey nears its end, he finds himself returning to the simplest truths, the ones he has known all along but must remind himself of again and again. We are all going to the same place. Emperor and slave, philosopher and fool, the powerful and the powerless. All of us are returning to the elements from which we came. And this is not tragedy. This is simply the nature of things, the way of the cosmos, the eternal rhythm to which all life dances. Let us sit with Marcus in these final days, as winter settles over the military camp at Vindobona. The cold is deep now, but not unkind. It brings clarity, this cold. It sharpens the edges of thought and makes each breath visible, tangible, real. He wraps his cloak more tightly and continues his reflections. Gratitude. This is what fills him now. Not regret, not fear, not even the satisfaction of accomplishments, but simple, profound gratitude. Gratitude for having lived, for having been given this opportunity to exist, to think, to feel, to love, for the teachers who shaped his mind. Rusticus, who first opened the door to philosophy. Apollonius, who taught him steadiness. His adoptive father Antoninus, who showed him what quiet dignity looks like. For his wife Faustina, complicated though their love has been, who gave him children and shared his life. For those children, even Commodus, his troubled son, whom he loves despite everything, whom he worries for as all fathers worry. Gratitude for the hard things too, for the challenges that tested him, for the losses that taught him about impermanence, for the pain that deepened his compassion, for the weight of responsibility that forced him to become stronger, wiser, more patient than he ever imagined he could be. Every experience, pleasant or painful, has been a teacher. Every moment has been an opportunity to practice virtue, to choose how to respond, to align himself with reason and nature. And now, looking back across the landscape of his life, he sees how it all fits together, how even the darkest moments had their purpose, their place in the great pattern. Accept everything that happens, he has written, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe. The health of the universe. Not his personal comfort, not his individual desires, but the health of the whole. This is what the Stoics understand. We are not separate from the cosmos, but expressions of it, participants in its unfolding. And when we align ourselves with this greater purpose, when we accept our role without resistance, we find peace. Deep, lasting peace. Marcus feels this peace now, settling over him like snow falling softly in the night. It has been a long journey to this quietness, so many years of striving, of trying to do right in situations where right was not always clear. So many years of balancing competing goods, of choosing the lesser evil, of carrying burdens that could not be set down. But he has carried them. He has not fled his duty. He has not abandoned his post. And in this there is satisfaction, the kind that comes not from ease but from effort faithfully given. The lamp flickers, the night deepens. Outside, sentries walk their rounds, their footsteps muffled by snow. The empire sleeps under his watch, as it has for nearly 2 decades. Soon another will take up this burden. Soon the purple cloak will pass to other shoulders. But the wisdom remains. The truths he has discovered, reminded himself of, lived by, these are eternal. They belong to no one emperor, no one age. They are the inheritance of all who seek to live well, to die well, to understand their place in the great turning of existence. What does it mean to return? Marcus has contemplated this question through countless meditations. To return to the cosmos, to the elements, to the source from which all things arise. We come from stardust, and to stardust we return. We are borrowed arrangements of earth and water, air and fire, briefly organized into the form we call ourselves, and then released again into the great flowing stream of matter and energy that makes and remakes the universe. There is something deeply comforting in this understanding. We are not lost when we die. We are not destroyed. We are transformed, recycled, returned to the cosmic treasury to be used again in new forms, new lives, new patterns of being. The atoms that make up Marcus's body have been countless things before, have been stone and tree, river and bird, have been part of other humans who lived and loved and died long before Rome was even imagined. And after him, these same atoms will be countless things again, will participate in endless new becomings. Nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. Everything is endlessly transformed in the great cosmic economy of existence. This is the eternal return. Not a return to the same life, the same circumstances, but a return to the fundamental nature of things, the basic elements from which all complexity arises. We go home. We return to our source. We rejoin the great wholeness from which we briefly emerged. And this is not an ending, but a continuation, a new chapter in the infinite story that has no beginning and no end. Marcus feels this truth in his bones now, in the growing weakness of his body, in the way his energy slowly drains like water seeping into sand. He is beginning his return. The journey back has already started, and he finds that he is not afraid. How can you fear returning home? How can you resist what is most natural, most inevitable, most aligned with the very structure of reality itself? To die is to do what you were always meant to do, to complete the arc of existence that began at your birth. Everything that begins must end. Every wave that rises must fall. Every breath that enters must leave. This is not tragedy. This is rhythm. This is the music of the spheres, playing the eternal song of becoming and unbecoming, of form and formlessness, of separation and reunion. Marcus breathes slowly, feeling the air enter and leave his body. Each breath a small practice of the great letting go that approaches. Each breath a reminder that we are not separate from the world but in constant exchange with it, constantly giving and receiving, constantly participating in the great circulation of life, in and out, receiving and releasing, taking form and dissolving again into potential. This is how it has always been. This is how it will always be. And there is profound peace in accepting this rhythm, in flowing with it rather than against it, in saying yes to what is rather than clinging to what we wish could be. Let it happen, Marcus whispers to himself. Let it flow. Let it be. These words have become his mantra, his medicine, his path to tranquility. Let it happen. Whatever comes, let it happen. Whatever passes, let it pass. Do not grasp, do not resist. Simply be present with what is, moment by moment, breath by breath, until the final breath comes, and you let even that go, releasing yourself back into the great mystery from which you came. The days grow shorter now, or perhaps it is only that Marcus sleeps more, drifting in and out of awareness like tide flowing up a beach and back again. Time has become soft, less distinct, less urgent. There is no hurry now, nowhere to rush to, nothing left to prove, just this gentle present moment, and this one, each arriving like a gift, each sufficient unto itself. His physicians come and go. His advisors bring news from distant provinces. His son Commodus sits sometimes at his bedside, and Marcus looks at him with love and concern, knowing he cannot protect him from the life that awaits, knowing he must let go even of this, the desire to save his child from his own nature. We must all walk our own path. We must all learn our own lessons. We must all become what we are meant to become, for better or worse. This too is acceptance. Accepting not only what happens to us, but what happens through us, what emerges from us into the world. We do our best, and then we release the outcome. We plant seeds and trust the soil, the rain, the sun to do their work. We cannot control how the garden grows. We can only tend it with care and then let it be what it will be. Marcus has planted many seeds. Some have flourished, some have withered, some have yet to show what they will become. His meditations, these private notes to himself, what will become of them? He does not know. Perhaps they will be lost, burned, forgotten. Perhaps someone will read them one day and find in them something useful, something comforting, something true. It does not matter. They were written for him, to help him live, to help him remember what matters. If they help someone else, that is a gift. If they do not, that is fine too. The value was in the writing, in the practice of reflection, in the daily returning to wisdom. We do not perform virtue for applause. We do not seek truth for recognition. We do these things because they are worth doing, because they align us with our highest nature, because they bring us into harmony with the Logos, the rational principle that governs all things. And in this harmony there is joy, not the loud joy of celebration, but the quiet joy of rightness, of being exactly where you are meant to be, doing exactly what you are meant to do. Marcus feels this quiet joy even now, even as his body fails, even as the end approaches. He has lived according to his principles. He has tried to be just, to be good, to be useful to his fellow human beings. He has not always succeeded, but he has always tried. And this is enough. This has to be enough. We are not gods. We are human. We make mistakes. We fall short. We fail to live up to our own ideals. But we keep trying. We keep returning to virtue. We keep choosing, day after day, moment after moment, to be a little better, a little wiser, a little kinder than we were before. This is the practice. This is the path. Not perfection, but direction. Not arrival, but journey. Not being flawless, but being faithful to what we know is true and good and right. Marcus closes his eyes. The voices around him fade to a distant murmur. He is floating now, suspended between waking and sleeping, between being and becoming, between form and formlessness, and it is peaceful here. So very peaceful. Like resting in warm water, held and supported, released from the weight of embodiment, from the burden of particularity. Just awareness now. Just presence. Just this, whatever this is. This moment of being that contains all moments. This breath that contains all breaths, this peace that has no opposite because it is the ground of all things. And so we come to the end, which is not an end but a transformation, a returning, a completion of the circle. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher, emperor, student of wisdom, servant of Rome, lies quietly now in his final hours. The fever that has claimed him burns through his body like a slow fire, returning him to the elements, releasing him back to the cosmos. He has done what he came to do. He has lived, he has loved, he has thought deeply about what matters. He has led with as much wisdom as he could summon. He has written words that captured his struggles and his insights, his doubts and his certainties, his humanity and his aspiration towards something greater. And now he rests. Now he lets go. Now he allows the great transformation to unfold as it must, as it always has, as it always will. You have existed as a part, he remembers writing. You will disappear into that which produced you, or rather you will be taken back into the universal generating principle by transformation. Taken back, returned, welcomed home. The boundaries that separated Marcus from the world are dissolving now. Where does his breath end and the air begin? Where does his body end and the universe begin? It is all one thing. It has always been one thing. The separation was temporary, a brief experiment in individuality, and now the experiment completes and he rejoins the whole. There is no fear here, only peace, only a sense of rightness, of coming full circle, of the wave returning to the ocean. He can feel the vastness opening to receive him, the infinite spaciousness that held him even when he felt most alone, most burdened, most afraid. It was always there, it is always here. This ground of being that supports all beings, this silence from which all sound arises, this stillness at the heart of all movement. Marcus sinks into it now, gratefully, like a tired traveler finally reaching home after a long journey. The pain is distant now. The concerns of empire are distant now. Even thought itself is dissolving, becoming less verbal, less distinct, more a kind of wordless knowing, a recognition of what has always been true. All is well, all has always been well. Even the struggles, even the sorrows, even the failures and disappointments, all of it was part of the pattern, part of the great weaving of existence. And he, Marcus Aurelius, was a thread in that weaving, a note in that symphony, a wave in that ocean, not the only thread, not the only note, not the only wave, but one, part of the whole, contributing his small pattern to the infinite pattern. And that is enough, more than enough. It is everything. His breathing slows, deeper now, slower. Each breath coming with more space between, in and out, like the tide, like the turning of seasons, like the movement of stars across the night sky, natural, inevitable, perfect. The darkness is not frightening. It is like the darkness before dawn, pregnant with potential, rich with possibility. Or perhaps there is no darkness at all, only a light so bright it appears as darkness to eyes accustomed to lesser illuminations. Either way, Marcus is not afraid. He releases his final breath, and the philosopher-emperor returns to philosophy itself, to the eternal truth he spent his life contemplating, that we are all one, all connected, all part of the vast mystery that has no name but contains all names. And his words remain, written by candlelight in a military tent, simple and profound, a gift to all who would seek wisdom, seek peace, seek to live well and die well. Meditations, reminders to himself that became reminders to us all, that life is brief, that virtue matters, that acceptance brings peace, that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. And we rest now in this knowing, in this ancient wisdom, in this eternal truth. Rest peacefully, completely, whole, knowing that you too are part of this great pattern, this cosmic web, this infinite dance of existence. Rest as Marcus rests, having done your best, having lived your life, having been exactly who you are. Rest now and let it all be just as it is, perfect in its imperfection, complete in its incompleteness. Home. Thank you for listening tonight. If this story helped you drift off, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more calming stories. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you next time.